Vinnie and I do not agree on which tight end should be ranked at the top. I think it should be George Kittle. Vinnie says Brock Bowers. We debate, plus get into the rest of our top 10 tight end rankings on today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm one of your co-hosts, Michelle Magdziuk, and when I'm not doing this, I'm a researcher and fantasy analyst with NFL Network.
And I'm your other co-host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL fantasy and betting for sportingnews.com.
We are continuing to go through our positional rankings before the actual fantasy draft season gets to us here in just a couple weeks, where it starts to get really heavy with fantasy drafts across, platforms. But we've already gone through running backs and wide receivers and quarterbacks, and we just have one position left, and that is tight ends. So we're going to go through our top 10 tight ends today, and then we'll get to some deeper sleepers on tomorrow's show at the tight end position. But just right off the bat here, when I'm looking at our top 10 rankings, they're pretty similar. We have 9 of these same 10 guys inside our top 10. Now, different rankings among them, right? A slightly different order. But I did find that interesting that we do agree that, 9 of these guys should be in the top 10. But right at the top is where we actually differ maybe the most, because I have George Kittle at number 1. No, you have him at number 2. Cool. But you have Brock Bowers at number 1. I actually have him at 3. So I think there's this elite 3 pack of tight ends: George Kittle, Trey McBride, Brock Bowers. That's how I have my top 3 ranked. Interestingly enough, though, you have a Brock Bowers, George Kittle, Sam LaPorta at 3, and then Trey McBride. Now, are you saying that LaPorta deserves to be like Elite 4 group instead of leaving him out, or are you thinking like McBride shouldn't be considered elite?
No, I like this group as a 4, and Sam LaPorta, I think maybe he's being overlooked. I mean, he's going quite a bit behind Trey McBride in drafts. In fact, Kittle is as well. I mean, you have Brock Bowers, then very early you have McBride going after him, and then a little bit of drop off for Kittle and a little bit more of a drop off for LaPorta. So right now, in terms of draft costs, Kittle and LaPorta clearly are leading that, because you're going to have to invest a second round pick on Bowers, borderline second round overall pick on McBride at this point. Like, I don't understand how Bowers and McBride are so close together. I mean, I get McBride has a chance for positive touchdown regression, but I don't know if he's going to be more than what we've seen in the last couple of seasons. He's a very good player and all that, but I think Brock Bowers, I mean, he's just a rookie coming off a sizzling second half of the season. Like, this guy's got massive upside going forward as the go-to guy with the Raiders, and you figure Geno Smith, a little bit more stability right away from the get-go quarterback. So that's good. Then Sam LaPorta is Jared Goff. And, of course, George Kittle as Brock Purdy. Trey McBride still going to be a key target there after Marvin Harrison Jr. for Kyler Murray. So they're all very key, and they're all very high on the list. I mean, you could definitely say Bowers and Kittle are up there to say they're going to have to be the primary targets on their team. So that's why I think they should separate from the rest. And then you get to LaPorta, who I think, look, the touchdowns can come for him, and that's the difference between McBride and LaPorta. I have seen LaPorta score at a very high rate. I have yet to see McBride do that, so I think that's the difference. I mean, a lot of this with the rankings, I mean, it's not just us. You'll go to a lot of rankings and see this very similar, because it's really hard to find deviation from these early guys. I mean, I think it's going to be very similar. You're going to see them in some type of order. But, again, I always lean to the guys I can get a little bit later. I don't think, again, Bowers is going to be of value at all, but I think Kittle and LaPorta would be. And I'd just be worried about McBride again. He was very good last year, and he's a stud receiver, but I don't think I see a path to him scoring as much as the other 3 guys.
So it's funny, like Brock Bowers and McBride last year, the difference between their average points per game was 0.02. So Brock Bowers averaged 12.16 points per game in half PPR. Trey McBride, 12.14. So to me, they're back-to-back, and that was with Bowers scoring 3 more touchdowns. I think both of these guys should score more touchdowns next year. Bowers with the upgrade at Geno Smith. But I could see his targets going down. He had 153 targets and 112 receptions. Like, that's really hard to repeat as a tight end, especially since last year he was pretty much the only guy with Jacoby Myers. They have tried to fix that, right? And even adding Ashton Genty, he's going to steal a lot of work on the ground. They were so bad rushing that they're going to run the ball more, and then he's going to steal a bunch of targets too. And then they drafted 2 wide receivers that are getting a lot of buzz. You have Myers still there, so I could actually see his targets going down a little bit while his touchdowns should go up. I still obviously very much like Bowers. He's my tight end 3. He was he was a tight end 2 in overall scoring last year. I'm saying that Trey McBride can cover that 0.02 difference. That's all with him, because with McBride, I don't see how anything changes for him. Everything's staying the same, unlike Bowers. He has the same coach. He has the same quarterback. He has the same play caller. Like, everything's the same with him. And he gets a ton of red zone targets. It's just not coming through with these touchdowns. And you say, well, Bowers is coming off just his rookie year. Basically, last year was McBride's first year as a full-time starter, right, for this team, because Zach Ertz is finally gone. He got his chance to fully break out. So it was really his first full year, too. So I just like McBride a little bit more, and I love him. I mean, he's going 10 picks later. So if I'm going to pick one, I'd go McBride over Bowers. But to get to the George Kittle, why I have him number 1, he was number 1 in overall or in average scoring last year. He missed 2 games, so he finished number 2 behind Brock Bowers. But it was a full point more per game that he averaged over Brock Bowers last year. And he had nearly 60 fewer targets on the season. We know Kittle is going to get his touchdowns. I would not be surprised if he gets 8 again, right? Like, he's going to be the main guy in the red zone. He's going to get so many yards per reception. He always does. He's been this yards after catch guy. He's a deep threat. 14.2 yards per reception last year for him, while Brock Bowers is sitting at 10.7. And we expect his targets to go up because they definitely need him this year. There is no Deebo Samuel. Brandon Ayuk, now his status is maybe he'll be back for week 6, but I don't even expect him back right now. They really need George Kittle to be the focal point of this offense. So I expect his targets to go up. And when you look at fantasy points per target last year, he was averaging 2.1 fantasy points per target in a half-point league. That led the NFL, not just tight ends. It led the NFL. Terry McLaurin was 2nd. Jamar Chase was 3rd. A.J. Brown was 4th. Like, it's just insane what he's doing with the tight end. And then the next closest tight end in fantasy points per target was Sam LaPorta at 1.7. And again, Kittle is at 2.1. Brock Bowers is all the way down at 1.3. So I have to go with Kittle as my tight end 1. And then when you're looking at the difference in ADP, it just doesn't make any sense. I'm definitely going Kittle in the 3rd round, 4th round, instead of Bowers in the middle of the 2nd.
Yeah, Bowers is very expensive. So is McBride. He's getting up there as well. So that's definitely a counter against them. And when I look at this, I mean, touchdowns usually make a difference when we look at the top tight end. So just went down in order. I think Bowers, again, I think he's an ascending star. Like, we saw him scratch the surface of what he can do. He could be the next Travis Kelce in terms of the consistency and putting up big numbers and being the centerpiece around which his passing game is created, right? And I definitely see that maybe going forward. So Bowers, I'm excited about. I think Bowers is an overall better pure receiving talent than McBride. McBride is maybe the better all-around tight end, so you look at that. But then you look at Kittle and LaPorta. I mean, they have to score quite a bit for their teams this year. So that's why McBride 4th. I mean, the touchdowns do come into play a lot more at tight end than any other position, because you want them to be red zone targets. They can add up quickly, right? When you're having 8 for 60 games and you add a touchdown to that, that's a big difference, right, in the scoring. I mean, you jump up another 6 points, which is hard to get. It's either 3 catches or 60 yards you're going to get with that score. So some little bit of maybe going deeper at this position, but that's how I kind of look at it, with scoring being a factor. But it would not surprise me if any one of these 4 finished as a tight end 1, but it would actually shock me if they didn't finish as 4 in some order, right? And I think they're just are separated above the rest for many reasons.
And I think that's what makes Trey McBride really special, that he still finishes a tight end 3 in both total points and an average, while only scoring 2 touchdowns. Like, you don't have to worry about touchdowns with him, which I do think is kind of a relief. And if he ends up getting 8 touchdowns, then he is going to be the tight end 1 overall. And he has seen 31 red zone targets over the last 2 years, tied for 3rd most among tight ends behind only Kelce and LaPorta, tied with George Kittle. So I do think they'll end up coming. I just think it's been really unlucky. But all right, we got through the first half of the top of this group. We have to go a little bit deeper. And this is where it gets a little bit harder because, yeah, if you have Kittle, McBride, Bowers, or even Sam LaPorta, who I love too, he's my tight end 4, tight end 3. We talked about him. You feel safe plugging these guys in every single week. Now, after you get through that group, it becomes a little more challenging. So we'll get through the rest of our top 10 right after we take a quick break. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. Fantasy football is back. Fire up the group chat. Get your draft board ready and buckle up for a season filled with breakouts, busts, and all the overreactions we live for. It's all going down on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, Vinnie and I are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. Our league's been running through Yahoo for a while now, and because it's such an easy setup, they have an amazing mobile app for their fantasy, and I just love how easy their message boards is to make it, enjoyable, fun conversations with my league mates all year long. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days, giving you more ways to play, more ways to draft, and more ways to win. It all began on August 4th, and they dropped their Guillotine Leagues, which is awesome. So go check that out. Or you can just do the head-to-head. You can join some public leagues. They have so many options. Stay tuned to all of their news this month and get started by creating or joining a Yahoo Fantasy Football League at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. And let's make this fantasy season the best one yet. All right, let's get to our tight end 5. And we have the same guy here. It's TJ Hockenson. He comes in at 5 after a very disappointing year last year, coming off the ACL. He was a tight end 18 in average scoring, didn't come back until about halfway through the season, didn't catch a touchdown that whole time. He still was already, though, the third most targeted guy on this team, despite only playing about half the year. And I fully expect him to be a big target hog on this team, especially with now Jordan Addison missing the first few weeks of the season. It should really start off really well for him, at least. Still only 27 years old. Actually, just turned 28 in July. But we've seen great fantasy seasons from him prior to the ACL injury in 2023. He was the tight end 3 in average scoring. He was a tight end 4 in 2022. We think he gets back to pre-torn ACL form and could be a top 5 guy this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of deviation in the top 4, but Hockenson seems to be the very popular top 5 because I think a lot of things drop off after him. And it could be the role reversal of last season where Jordan Addison had to be effective and available early in the season with Hockenson missing time and needing time to come back. Now it's the flip where Addison has to miss time with the suspension. We know he's 100% going to be out. There's no question about that. So Hockenson needs to be a key target. You also have a different quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, and you figure a default or de facto rookie, I should say, who's not really played a meaningful game for the Vikings, is going to treat Hockenson like a bit of a security blanket, throwing down those mid-tier routes, right, short to intermediate, and they're going to go a lot to Justin Jefferson, TJ Hockenson, the backs. So you figure that's going to be a big part of what the Vikings do with a younger quarterback. So, again, he's probably number 5 here, clearly, and you just want to look at him as a pretty good value right now. I think you want him to be fully healthy, but he's in a really good situation to produce if you want to skip out on any of the top 4, which would give him an advantage.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest risk is that there's a new quarterback and maybe he never gets back to true form. But I do feel like he should be a top 5 guy. Now, just because we say he's tight end 5 doesn't necessarily mean we'd pay tight end 5 cost, right? Because he's going in the 6th round, 63rd overall. So like that's much higher than guys that maybe we like later, and David Njoku, who we'll get to in a second, going 22 picks later. Evan Ingram, we're not as high on, but like even Mark Andrews going around later. So maybe like, do you feel okay with the 6th round cost?
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, it just depends on who else is going to fall to me. I mean, there are some choices that you're going to have to make. I mean, I do like McMillan quite a bit in that group, but I might take him over like a Williams or a Pickens there, depending on who's left, right? I mean, that's part of the factor. And I feel like the other thing that's going to have to come and play, I feel like Hockenson gives me a next level advantage over the next tight ends on the board, David Njoku, Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, that tier would be coming up next. So do I feel like he's that much better than those guys? That really determines a lot of my picks, not just a tight end for a specific player, but just is he really better than the next guy I'm going to get? And am I going to get the difference? And would I rather have the cost on another position and then get the tight end I like a little bit later? So that's usually what comes into play there when determining how high I want to use a pick on a tight end.
Now, our 6 through 8, tight end 6 through 8, we do have the same guys, just the exact opposite order. So I have David Njoku at tight end 6, then Travis Kelce at 7, Mark Andrews at 8. You have Mark Andrews at 6, Travis Kelce at 7, David Njoku at 8. The reason why I'm going David Njoku over Mark Andrews is that as long as Njoku is healthy, which has been his biggest issue, he's going to get a ton of targets in this offense, right next to Jerry Jeudy. It seems like Joe Flacco is going to win this job, right? And we know he's going to sling it around. But like last year when he was needed at the end of the year, 17 targets, 13 targets, 10 targets. Like I don't really see that. Like obviously he's not going to get over 10 targets every game, but he's going to be a necessity again. He averaged 12.8 points per game over the second half of the season after dealing with a bunch of injuries to start the year. He was a tight end 5 in average scoring. So I even have him down from there. I have him at tight end 7 or tight end 7, but no, tight end 6. Sorry. The reason I have him over like Mark Andrews is because Andrews is so dependent on touchdowns. Like last year, he had 11 touchdowns and he still was just the tight end 7 in average scoring. I can't predict him for 11 touchdowns again, right? Could he do it? Sure, he's a touchdown monster, but that's hard to replicate. His snaps are down. His targets were way down last year. So those are all the reasons why I have Mark Andrews at 8 and Njoku at 6.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's really hard to get off Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce, right? They've been doing it for years, and consistently they were 1 and 2 near the top of the rankings every year. So they're hard, right? They're fading, but they're still there. They're still kicking. They're still an important part of what their offenses are going to do. But how has that changed with more of a crowd at receiver in both situations? So, and the age that's creeping up with Andrews and Kelce. So it's really hard, right? I do believe Andrews and Kelce, I think, is due for rebound and touchdowns, where I think Andrews might slide a little bit in the touchdowns. Are they still better than Njoku with their offenses in general, or does Njoku get it done here because they don't have a lot in Cleveland and Joe Flacco had chemistry with him down the stretch in 2023? So I think I just like the players, Andrew and Kelce, better, and that's sometimes what it comes down to. I think they're going to be a little bit more reliable. I think Njoku can have some blow-up weeks, but he also might have some duds where he's forgotten about in the worst offense of the 3. There's no doubt about it that he's in Cleveland. So that's my concern there, that if they switch quarterbacks, then where does the chemistry go? Does Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel have a connection with another guy? Will they be able to get the ball consistently to anyone that's important in their offense? So, again, that's where my trepidation is, where I look at Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. They're guaranteed to get these guys the ball, and more so than not going to be out there for every game.
Now, talking about Travis Kelce here, he's both of our tight end 7, and he's extremely hard to rank because we know what Travis Kelce can be every year from 2023 through 2016 through 2023. He was either the tight end 1 or the tight end 2 overall. I mean, he just did it so consistently. Last year, we saw the fall off, right? He fell to tight end 6 overall, tight end 7 in average scoring. Only got into the end zone 3 times. And that was after, I mean, it's now 2 years in a row where he's not scoring a bunch of touchdowns. It's been 5 in 2023, 3 in 2024, after having 12, 9, 11. So like I was saying with Mark Andrews, touchdowns can be tricky like that. I will say he still had 133 targets last year. It felt like they were trying to save him, but that's still the 3rd most among tight ends. He was one of 4 tight ends to even have more than 100 targets, and he had 133. So, like, he's still going to be used, and he's lost weight, right? And he says, like, he's more focused on this now, and he was more focused on his acting career last year or whatever. But at 36 years old, which he will be in October, can he get back to the tight end 1, or is he going to keep falling off?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get ever back to tight end 1 just because there's a lot of young players that are stars and that it's their turn to put up numbers, much like a few years ago was Kelce and Andrew's turn to be the young wave of tight ends. So I think going back to the top is gone, but I think now you have a situation where it might create value for Kelce, right? If you're taking him at tight end 7, it's a lot different than taking him in the top 12 at tight end 1. You can get away with a little bit less production and a much later pick. So your expectations are also not as high for Travis Kelce. You just need him to be solid. And could he be solid with a little bit of touchdown bump and just maybe the receivers helping him get open a little bit more? It also should be a little bit motivated, because I could see this being his last season, chance to pad those stats a little bit. So again, I think some guys just become so far down and perceived down that they become values, but I could definitely see a scenario where all those people that we've talked about finish ahead of him.
It's a hard one, right? Because he's basically, I mean, the only evidence we have of an old tight end having a top tier fantasy season is Tony Gonzalez. And is he the next Tony Gonzalez? Maybe, right? If anyone's going to do it, it could be Travis Kelce. But it is he's a hard guy to rank. If you want to take that risk, I totally get it. He could definitely finish much higher than the tight end 7, or he could keep falling off. But we are going to get to the rest of our tight end or top 10 tight end rankings right after a quick break.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface, all on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Again, it's good to link all your accounts because you can see right away what's going in, what's going out. Monarch makes it simple to review your finances with your partner. You can see budgets, goals, and spending activity all in one place to make it convenient for you. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Again, Monarch Money. Check it out. Get in control and organize your finances today. All right, Michelle, time to close the show. And again, we have that top 5 spilling into Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, and David Njoku. So we're at the top 8, still in our top 10/top 12 for the starters here. So one difference we have is Tyler Warren and Jake Ferguson. I think both these guys could be really good values. I have Ferguson at 9, Warren at 11. You have Warren at 9 and Ferguson 11. So either way, we like these guys a little bit more than the consensus. Now, talk about why you're leaning one way versus the other, and why both these guys could actually be really good values near the bottom of the tight end ones.
Yeah, so I have Tyler Warren at tight end 9. He's just outside at tight end 11, and then but I still also like Jake Ferguson. I do think he's a good value. I mean, we both have him ranked higher than his average draft position right now. You are a little bit higher at 9, where I have him at 11, but he's going as tight end 14 in average draft position. So we are both higher on him. The reason why I like Warren more is because, I mean, we've seen the floor for Ferguson, right? I mean, last year is brutal. He averaged 5.4 points per game, tight end 29. Now, he was much, much better in the games that he played full games with Dak Prescott. So I do like him as a value. I think he can get back to his 2023 self, tight end 9 and average scoring 8.3 points per game. And they did pay him this year, so he should be good to go. But you have to worry about George Pickens, and now they have a true wide receiver 2, right? Because Ferguson's been the second target on this team over the last 2 years. So now he might be the third target, which could hurt him. And then with Tyler Warren, he has a true shot to be the top target in his offense. He has a true shot to still be a top 3 tight end immediately. I mean, each of the last 2 years, the tight end 1 overall has been a rookie. So that's not out of question anymore. And I think he was truly special. The production he put up in 2024 at Penn State, the only tight end to play at a Power 5 school to have at least 1,000 yards and at least 8 touchdowns in a season since at least 2000. And he destroyed that mark with over 1,200 receiving yards. So I do think he's a very special talent. He played the preseason week 1 with the starters. Played just 20 snaps, had 3 targets, three receptions, 40 yards. Like I do think he should be the focal point of this passing offense. I don't think any of these wide receivers have truly deserved to be a top wide receiver 1. So I think Warren can finish as a top 3 guy if it all works out. And we know Jake Ferguson can't, right? So I really, really love Tyler Warren's ADP at tight end 11. And it's risky to, rank a rookie tight end much higher than 9. But I also want to, I could see him being a top 5 tight end this year.
Yeah, I think the only reason I like Jake Ferguson a little bit more, I think he's got a little bit of safer floor because he's got Dak Prescott. Hopefully he's healthy, but then you have Anthony Richardson versus Daniel Jones. You might have to see a tight end switch. We'll see how that affects Warren, if at all. And again, I do want Warren to emerge as the top target, clean up the mess that they have with Josh Downs, Michael Pittman Jr., Alec Pierce, all these other receivers that they have, and clean up. And really, he's there to also clean up all the guys that they've collected at tight end, including Jelani Woods and Will Mallory and some of these guys that are just, they teased us because we like the idea and concept of a Colts tight end delivering, but finally we'll get that Warren. So I'm totally with you that Warren and Ferguson belong in the top 12 as picks. Ferguson, again, higher floor. If you're looking for a higher ceiling, I think Tyler Warren has it, but there might be a little bit more volatility there. Now, Evan Ingram is really hard to rank. He doesn't score a lot of touchdowns. That's kind of his mojo from the Giants and the Jaguars. He's now on the Broncos, however. We're really hurting for key targets behind Cortland Sutton here. Is that enough for you to say, hey, it's a pretty good offense with Sean Payton and Joe Lombardi. They're going to use the tight end. He's not going to score a lot, but I think we can make up for it with quite a bit of volume with Sutton.
If I'm in a full PPR league, I do like him better. But we both have him ranked as tight end 10. We got him right in there in our top 10. He's tight end 8 in average draft position, so we're both lower on him. We're probably not targeting him. I mean, 3 of the last 4 years, he's been not useful for fantasy, right? We had the big 2023 season where he finished towards the top in overall scoring, but tight end 6 in average scoring. And that was when he saw 143 targets with the Jaguars. Now, maybe if he sees that type of volume, even like 100 plus targets, right, with the Broncos, maybe he's more efficient because his efficiency has been horrendous with the Jaguars, 8.9 yards per reception. Maybe Sean Payton can figure out a way to get him, deeper down the field, get him more yards per reception, maybe get him a couple more touchdowns. Because if he could get to like 6 touchdowns, it's been 3, 4, 4, and 1 the last 4 years. Then I do think he finishes top 10. I'm not super excited for him. I do think he could be the second target on this team, though. I do think Sean Payton loves him. So I'm putting him in my top 10, but I'm not dying to get him.
Yeah, and I talked earlier about scoring as a key part of tight end. And when you don't score a lot, you're going to be limited and capped with your production. And Ingram, I think, is capped. We've seen that that's not his style of play, to be physical and score in the red zone. Just not what he's going to do. He's going to act like a kind of a glorified slot receiver a little bit more. So that's what I want to see. But again, the volume potential is there just because the Broncos are so thin in the receiving corps.
Now, that's going to be it for our top 10 tight end rankings, but we're going to get to the rest of our rankings tomorrow, which includes a lot of young guys that have potential to break out, right? They're risky, but they're going super late in drafts or going undrafted, and they have a chance to break out. So we'll discuss all those guys on tomorrow's show. Don't miss that. We hope you have a fantastic night, and thank you all for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen every day. Hit that subscribe button, hit the likes, give us those good reviews, all that good stuff. Bye, y'all.